You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Todd Richards here, Roots, Hearts,
and Soul.
You are listening to Roots, Heart, and
Soul. Yeah,
Roots,
baby.
Heart, and Soul podcast.
Stephan and I are launching this podcast based off cookbook Roots, Heart, and Soul by myself, Todd Richards, with a great help from Chef Stephan.
We're going to be hearing stories from Africa all the way to the Caribbean, all the way to the Americas. It's going to be something special. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Roots, Heart, and Soul podcast on Heritage Radio Network. Today's a little unorthodox because my brother, Mr. Todd Richards, is on the highway. So we're going to be hearing his voice and not really seeing his beautiful, sexy face that he usually shows us every Tuesday. And then we're going to have a wonderful privilege to talk to I won't even say up and coming superstar because he's already a gunslinger. So we're gonna have a good time talking to him today. We really want to have him on the show because we are about a week away from Creole Food Festival, but also he's got a new restaurant that we're going to be conversating about. And then our 50th edition, our 50th episode is going to be recorded live on the 25th. And we want to there's a lot to talk about. Mr. Richards. Hello.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, man?
If you know anything about Atlanta.
Then we know a lot about Atlanta.
When you have to take the side streets to get to the side streets, it's one of those traffic days.
Oh, wow.
You know? So.
Oh, wow.
But
there's a new saying that Atlanta doesn't have like traffic hours anymore. It's just traffic all day. And basically that's what it is at this point.
You know what's amazing to me, Robert? First of all, let me do this right. Roots, Heart, Soul podcast, Chef Todd Richards, of course, the great Chef Stephan, here on a blistery Tuesday in not so hot Atlanta. Everyone's hot with heat with this traffic today. But, Robert, the thing is what I'm amazed about is how many people are off during the day in Atlanta. Like there's traffic. It's not like there's traffic. Like you're in traffic, traffic is an amoeba. It just is, it just exists, and you just flow in and out of it at moment's notice.
Well, let me tell you guys what I woke up to this morning.
Yeah.
A completely white neighborhood. Completely.
I mean, you're in
covered with snow. Right? Covered with snow.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you for clarifying.
All right.
No. Beautiful, the beautiful Vermont, Vermont trees.
Even more to the point, you are in Vermont, so I mean,
I didn't know where you're going with me. That was like
beautiful orange colored trees were covered in white snow today.
Wow, that's still crazy. How are you saying that?
Covered in white snow. But it is absolutely breathtaking. It's beautiful, man. Because Vermont is full of trees everywhere, and everywhere you drive, you see this beautiful white snow dropping on this, and it hasn't stopped snowing all day since this morning.
Wow. I mean, it got cold here. That's basically what's happened here. We don't have snow or anything like that, but it's cold air. Freezing.
So, anyway. Mr. Robert, should we go ahead and introduce this gentleman real quick here?
Yeah, go ahead, Chef.
We got to do this. We got to do this the right way, as always. So, amazing brother, super talented chef. We call him our little brother, but he is a gunslinger in the kitchen. Atlanta-based, Chef Robert Butts has garnered a slew of accolades in his career that spans already over a decade. After graduating with a double degree in culinary arts from the Arts Institute of Charlotte and a mass communication, public, and international relations degree from Johnson C. Smith University, he then travels to the south of France, where he studies French techniques and the philosophy of bringing garden fresh ingredients to the table. Then spends some time also in Italy and Holland to further his craft. Now, today he's the executive chef and co-owner of this beautiful restaurant in Atlanta called Auburn Lane. And I can't tell you how excited I am to come to Atlanta to eat this food. Because every day, chef, every day he's posting something that's just looking amazing.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. That was a good introduction. Thank
you. See that's my communication degree too, son. Okay, that's my communication degree too. Okay. This brother is so Todd. I can't tell you how privileged I was to meet Robert when I did, and right away, man, we just clicked, and since then, it's been nothing but love, bro. So, welcome to Roots Heart and Soul Podcast, brother.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Todd, I know that you've had a much longer relationship with Robert than I have. Anything you want to add to this? Did we lose Todd?
I don't know. The traffic might have been crazy.
I hope not. So Robert, talk to me, man. Talk to me about this new project. Let's talk about this new project first and foremost, before we get into nitty gritty of your illustrious career.
All right, so I'm Chef Robert Butts, chef and co-owner of Auburn Angel down here in Atlanta, Georgia. We are located in the historic downtown area off Auburn Avenue, where the old barbecue spot restaurant used to be. We renovated it. Okay. We brought it to life, and actually, the name actually plays a role to what the area plays. Because if you know anything about Atlanta, especially Auburn Avenue, it's the historic soul food road. This is where the Black Mecca first was in Atlanta. The first Black bank, the first Black insurance company, and of course, the first Black restaurants. So the building here used to be a barbecue restaurant where the civil rights leaders used to meet and plan their marches and activations. So when we named the building, even though I came in earlier this year, the angel represents the leaders who were here before, who still look over old Atlanta, like Auburn Ave, Edgewood, and Dobbs, and kind of giving a new face and basically a food desert right now. So yeah, man, that's Auburn Angel. We've been around now for a couple of months, and we've been doing some amazing things, getting busier organically, which I love. And of course, the mentions, the write-ups, people are loving when they're coming into here because it's always a vibe.
Well, listen, I've seen. I mean, listen, I follow you. I follow you consciously, and the food that you've been putting out is calling my name all the way from Vermont. So the type of cuisine that you're doing, you're doing modern Southern soul food cuisine. What is the inspiration behind that?
Well, for me, it's more along the lines of playing to the South. I am from the South. I'm from Atlanta, and I've been blessed to live in different areas like the Carolinas. Been blessed to live a little bit in Florida. I've been blessed to live in a little bit of time in New Orleans as well. And so for me, being a Southern chef, it's more than just the food we make, but the ingredients we use, because we have so much stuff down here. From the different grains like rices, the different peas and beans we have, even when it comes to seafood. If you go up to the coast or the Gulf, so I like to highlight those in different ways. Even if I'm using sea island peas, or I'm using Midlands instead of using Carolina Gold rice. I like to kind of like inform people of the ingredients of the South and do it in like a fun new way that's still welcoming, but still kind of reminds you of home at the same time. You know?
Now, I've seen some of your great creations through your imagination, not only at the last Creole Food Fest, but also specifically at the festival in
Bay Haven.
At the Bay Haven Food Festival.
Yeah. Shout out to
listen, man.
Shout out to Greg, man.
Not counting the fact that Atlanta took the winning.
I mean, look, they said they won the competition of the best city. I'm just saying, like, if you had to choose, where would you?
So, tell me some of the dishes in your menu that stands out with some of the well-known local ingredients of Atlanta.
All right, so
or of Georgia, period.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the couple of dishes that we have on the menu here, one's highlighted is our whole cake and greens. So basically, I use a local company called West Georgia Farmers Co-op. I get my greens from them, so it's Georgia grown. And if you know anything about greens, the best thing about it is when you cook them down and you have that soul food plate, and then the greens juice hit that cornbread. Talk about when it hits that cornbread. So the idea of that dish kind of came from that, playing a nod to it, the whole cake's the history of that, and just basically stacking it. We actually have been named one of the 10 dishes that represent Atlanta right now. Another thing I do is I kind of do a take on like a lemon pepper, if you call it, for my brunch. So a lot of people do chicken and waffles, chicken and pancakes, chicken and French toast. Well, I do chicken and donuts. It's a callback to also like New Orleans. Wow. Yeah. So chicken what I do is chicken and donuts, man. I like brine it, of course, and like a classic like pickle brine. So it gets like a little citrusy note. I also batter it, a little bit of flour, get a nice little crisp. But what I do to it is I take a bunch of like lemons, peppercorns, dehydrate the lemons, press the peppercorns, and what I do is I make a lemon pepper butter that kind of goes on top of it, and we melt it on top with that. And then we have like some Richland rum glaze that we put from Richland rum, Georgia. That's kind of like our syrup for it all. It's a delicious dish, man.
Wow.
I can't even hold you. And every time people eat it.
So here's what's going to happen, man. I'm not only coming to eat, but I'm coming to sit in the kitchen and just watch you cook, because I need to copy some of this stuff.
Hey, come on. The kitchen's always a good time over here.
I gotta come cook with you, man. I
like to vibe. Like, to me, like when you're in the kitchen, I know a lot of times it's very serious, but at the same time, we're doing what we love, right? So why not have a fun time doing it as well? Still respect
absolutely.
But like still like not forgetting why we're doing it. Because I think a lot of times we get so pressured on the strive of like perfection that we forget why we do it, and then we just love to cook.
That's true.
So that's what I kind of bring with my energy. With my team in the kitchen and everything like that.
Now you've been a staple in the Atlanta culinary scene. There was a conversation I was having with a brother yesterday, and this is a great question to bring, especially to somebody like you and somebody like Todd, obviously. He said to me, how come Black restaurants or Black restaurateurs or Black people in general, especially in a city like Atlanta, don't support Black owned or Black owned products? He's like, I went to this Jamaican restaurant, and not only these people were playing their own music, they were drinking their own beers, and they were doing this and that. And I went to a Mexican restaurant, and they do the same thing. But when you go to a Black-owned restaurant, they're not showcasing any Black-owned spirits or Black-owned wines. And I said that's not quite true. So I brought the argument that he's like, we don't support our own culture, and I wanted to bring this up to you specifically because I know how much the relationship that I had with you and the conversations that I had with you I know that's not quite correct in his statement, but that's what he's experienced. And as a matter of fact, this is the gentleman that I wanted to introduce to you, who distributes a lot of the Black-owned spirits and wines, and hopefully, we'll set up that meeting eventually soon. But what's your take on that?
I mean, I think when it comes down to it, I've had this conversation with a few people, and I hate to say it. Sometimes I really hate to say it, but sometimes for us, it is a crab in a barrel mentality. It's kind of hard for some people to put the vision on of, okay, we can build together rather than I got to be better than this person. Because when it comes to especially Atlanta, what's supposed to be the Black Mecca, when it comes to Black-owned businesses or even restaurants, it's not put as forefront as most would think about. I had a conversation with a few people about this, about when you think about the Black chefs of Atlanta who are really trying to focus on quality food and do it right. How big is that list? And somebody literally told me, you know what? I can't think of more than 10 people. And to me, that kind of shocks me in a city like Atlanta, where we should be building each other up. It kind of sucks, because when it gets this mindset of when you come to Atlanta and you think of Black-owned spots, it's always like the lounges, or it's always like the clubs or something like that. It always has to be like a party scene. And even when it comes to supporting local, a lot of times they always want like some of the businesses always want like handouts, or they want deals, when they won't go to a white restaurant and do that, but they'll look for something to kind of get from us for free. So I think in Atlanta, this is more along the lines, we just got to
because what impressed me the most about Atlanta, about my experience with Atlanta and you guys, is this feeling of unity between the Black chefs that are in Atlanta. We not only support each other, but I see you guys doing events with each other. You guys, doing dinners at each other's spots. It's wonderful, man, and that's what has excited me about not only bringing back the Creole Food Festival in Atlanta, but also coming to bring my own little touch to Atlanta, to Atlanta itself. I was super excited to consider the move because of you guys. But then his conversation to me was, yesterday was, mind-boggling, because I'm like, whoa, hold up. This is a conversation that needs to be brought up to the light. Chef Todd, welcome back. He's not his.
Well, I mean, to your credit, Chef, I mean, that's something that we're trying to do in Atlanta. One of the biggest things is kind of building a network and coming together, more collaboration than than ego, putting everything aside, because if we work together, it's a stronger unity overall. And if we work together, we push what we do farther and we reach more audiences. Like, there's no point, because everybody cooks some of the same stuff in Atlanta, but no chef is the same here. You know what I'm saying? There's different things I can learn from you.
There's no monolithic, like Todd always says, there's no monolithic. We're not monolithic as far as our community itself. The chefs, everybody brings something different to the table.
Yes.
And I saw that at the Behavior Food Festival. Geez, you guys put out some food that was just effing incredible.
Well, I think too, when you think about it, because outside of Bayhaven, when you think about a city like Atlanta, why don't we have a festival that highlights chefs of color? It kind of.
I was going to ask that question too,
but I don't think anybody's ever initiated it. We have a little side festivals, there's a small soul food fest, but not really people know about it. But as an actual festival with so many diverse cultures here in Atlanta, all through the diaspora, it's why why haven't we done it before? So I think when it came here, especially last year, that's what excited everybody so much. It was like, here's a chance for us to kind of like show our cuisine, show what we can do, and not have to literally worry about like fitting a mold or like worrying about what people might think. They can just be free and just cook their food.
Well, I think the Creole Food Festival is an amazing festival because it celebrates and highlights Black and brown chefs from Africa all the way to the Caribbean and Latin America, through the South of the United States, and the talent that we've seen the last 6-7 years from New York to Miami to Atlanta has been absolutely downright amazing. But you know, Chef Todd always brings the competition. However, you know, he starts doing food like you know, he's like under the table. He's like you know what, I'm gonna bring the heat today, and with his duck wings and smoked duck wings and all kinds of stuff, man. He did New York with me last year, bro. He lit the place up. He literally lit the place up.
What did Chef make?
Man, he had this barbecue.
Or the pork belly or the
pork belly. Man,
oh
Lord, have mercy. I gotta tell you, man, this boy, when he decides to put something out, he brings the fire. But he brings the fire, man.
Who runs New York? I mean, that's
especially with his lamb chops.
Oh man, come on. Man.
But your lamb chops at the Behavior was badass, bro.
Look, you always got to hit him with the flavor.
They weren't lamb chops. They were Denver land ribs. To be. I don't need a chop. You know, I can use it all. Yeah.
So, Robert, you had this amazing experience. You know, right after your graduating, you went to France for a year and a half.
Yeah,
this is one of the opportunities, unfortunately, that I missed because I decided to get married right away. How was that experience for you, and your trip to Italy afterwards?
I mean, for me, it was eye-opening for me, honestly, because you know, just leaving culinary school, you know, I wanted to learn a little bit more, and what better place to say than in culinary school, France. So I said, all right, I'm just gonna go over there. So I took a one-way ticket. Didn't really know where I was gonna work or stay yet, but I just had to get over there. I went over there, linked up with some people from a local school, and they took me to the south of France, where I went to like Montpellier, Villeneuve, Clermont, and Nimes, and I started working at this place called Hotel La Source under this guy named Chef Morgan, who had this amazing vineyard there, this amazing garden, and who was just so passionate about food. And like every day we would talk about it. Like we go out to the garden, he'd be like, Robert, you have to make like 3 things with this tomato. And I'm like, all right, bet, that's cool. But being over there kind of made me appreciate things a lot more because, you know, a lot of times, you know, we take for granted what we got over here. Like over there, there's so much like love, support, and like passion to everything they do. Not only if it's, you know, selling stuff on the side of the road like artwork, or if they're cooking, you know, you just feel the love and just the community support. Like their dinners, like my first time there, my first day there, you know, it was breakfast. And this is my first time having breakfast in France. Didn't realize it wasn't like America. So I came downstairs looking for like the bacon, eggs, and stuff like that. Bro, it was nothing but like danishes, like fruits and like the pastries. I said, okay, that's cool. But yeah, like I was in shock. I was like, oh, I don't know how this is gonna work, but ended up working. But even the time, you see how they eat for hours. Like they sit around with their family, and it's course throughout. They go through bottles of wine, telling stories. Or over here, you know, we'll eat dinner and it's like, all right, I'm about to log on Instagram real quick and see what we got going on. But
family is very important in the French culture.
Mm-hmm. So even like being done there, coming back, like it just like when I got back, I appreciated just everyone who's in my life so much more. One, because I was gone for a long time, but two, just to be around the people that care about you and love you and support you, like you got to cherish those moments, man.
So did you learn a little French?
Man, I was quiet for like the first 6 months, and I still only learned like a little bit. I learned how to like talk, like I'd be like bonjour, monsieur, like comment ça va, or asking like how people are, but like, man, I was quiet.
Yeah,
I was like,
you learned a little bit about a little bit. I think he's ready to.
I learned enough to get by.
Chef Todd, I think he's ready for an invitation to Haiti.
Oh man, I don't know
Chef
about
Todd,
that.
what do you think, man? I think he's ready for a little invitation to Haiti.
Yeah, I think he can go. Yeah. He ain't too light skinned, so he'll be all right.
Oh, come on.
I want to get caught up in DR,
Nah, you'll be okay.
Times, man.
You'll be okay. You'll be okay. So let's talk about there's been a lot of conversations about there's in the comment, even though negative, you told me that your interaction with him was somewhat of a different story when he came to Atlanta. But the conversation was that there is no chefs in Atlanta, and although we know that's a load of BS, but the comment was made anyways. How was your interaction and collaboration with Chef Kwame when he came to ACL?
I mean, it was for Atlanta Food and Wine, so they kind of. Okay, so my issue with Atlanta Food and Wine is sometimes, even though I do support them and do stuff with them, is they don't support local like that. Like for me, for the city of Atlanta, there's a lot of chefs you could have showcased, and I get why they did it because they wanted to sell tickets and everything like that. But even when Kwame came, it didn't make sense to anybody because one, Kwame doesn't have a restaurant here. Two, he's not really a part of Atlanta's scene or culture at all, other than what you might see on TV. So in the day, it really didn't make sense. He was a cool dude, don't get me wrong, but like if he didn't really know you or interact with you, it was like, all right, I'm just gonna keep it moving, which is, that's not cool to me.
That's yeah. I think we have some work to do in our, even though there's been a lot of strives to do wonderful things. For example, I can tell you that Chef JJ, who had his event, the Cookout in New York, his ideal or his vision is to celebrate black chefs, and he had chefs from everywhere. I know he's doing one soon in Miami. I'm not sure when. Him and I talked about that. But again, I think we need to have a larger conversation about the unity of our community. Listen. Meeting Todd and the way Todd is, interacted with me throughout the years. He came to Haiti. He asked me to be part of his book. What a privilege that was for me. You still see this ununification out there that bothers me quite a bit. And I don't know, how do we address that, Chef, so that we start having a different conversation and attitude?
I mean, the first thing though is that we all have to acknowledge that it's competition. That it is. Too often we get put into those kumbaya moments where we're all supposed to be getting along, but when you're fighting for the same, goal at the end, it is competition. So you can be supportive and be in competition at the same time. What you cannot be is dismissive. And really, what you're talking about, yeah, that approach is being
Is being dismissive. We have Chef Todd. We have a little technical difficulty, but I'm sure he'll get back when he does. What do you think?
Yeah,
What do you think about that, Chef? You
No, I
back?
mean,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
back. Yeah.
I want to
Okay.
have to go a little more deeper with the dismissive, if you can.
Um, well, there's a dismissiveness amongst what soul cuisine is and its influence on the Americas. Just like I believe that in some ways, like jazz gets gets dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like Southern hip hop got dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
There's parts of this culture that we want to forget, but too often we throw out the baby with the bathwater. We want to, civil rights era is over with. Well, then what food are you eating? Because the food from the civil rights era is still
Still here.
prominent. It's there. Churches and restaurants still meeting places and things like that. So you can't distinguish that or just exclude the civil rights movement and you take away the food. You can't do so. Yeah. So I think that's the quality. I think also though is that we haven't realized that the stage is big enough for us. It's just that we have a lot of different stages in which we need to stand on, and it can be done by cuisine, it can be done by location and things like that. But the question is who's doing the anointing? And are we putting ourselves in a position to not only be anointed, but be the anointers of the next, who's coming next and things like that? What Stephan and I talk about, is we going to be, the king or are you going to be the kingmaker? And there's a lot more power in the kingmaker than it is necessarily, being the king. But I believe that Atlanta gets dismissed, even though Michelin is here now, and we know it coincide with the World Cup and things
Yeah.
like that. There's still no Atlanta cuisine. And I believe that you can distinctly say you go to New York, three things you're going to have in New York. You go to Philly, you go to Chicago, you go to LA, with their, if you go, LA, you say it's street food, it's Asian, Chicago, you get a pizza, you get a hot dog, and you can eat at Alinea. And you can go to Philadelphia, shout out to everybody, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, number 15 in North America right now, and honeysuckle. And if you go to New York, you could say this: what is defined as Atlanta cuisine? We haven't defined it, and we keep borrowing from other places and trying to make it our own. It happened um, right before you really started coming up, Robert, with Charleston. When Brock was really popular in Charleston before he moved to Nashville, and then all you started seeing oysters on everybody's menu, shrimp and grits on everyone's menu, you see island red peas on everyone's menu.
Yeah.
You saw all the things. So define quintessentially what is Atlanta's food outside of strip club wings and things like that, then we're not going to be taken seriously. And so it's I'm not saying it's justified, but it is understanding why it gets dismissed because what is Atlanta's cuisine is not defined.
I mean, I can agree with you on that. I mean, it's very like vague if you try to think about it because it takes away from different avenues and point. But do you think it's possible to kind of like look at what Atlanta used to be in the past? Like you said, the big thing was like the civil rights movement, right? And the food that we have here. Is there a way that you think that we can kind of like rationalize that into what Atlanta could be, or what could Atlanta really?
Well, so I think you talking about two different sides of the tracks when you talk about Atlanta in that regard. So because the other side of the tracks have gone back to old Atlanta in the sense of when I came up in '90s, early '90s, there was late '80s, early '90s, four master chefs here,
Mhm.
and things like that. Then you had Chef Evans, who I trained under, Chef Schuler trained under, D trained under. So
Mhm.
we had that. We had a plethora of tasting menu restaurants. We had all those things going. And then now you see this era of tasting menu restaurants in Atlanta. So, I mean, this was what Atlanta was 30 years ago. So I do see it on that side. I don't see it, A, in our communities, we've closed more restaurants than anybody. You know, gentrification is a real thing, you know. So you have that. B, I don't know, who do we get support for? If you want to do a full tasting menu restaurant, what group of people are you getting support from? So do you have the ability to go in now into the black neighborhood, the white neighborhood, to the Latin neighborhood if you're going to go into that format? Because not, I mean, it takes dollars to they're done. It's hard for somebody making less than 75,000 to go to a tasting menu restaurant, more than once a year. I mean, Lazy Betty is three 70 a person. We have beverage pairing, before gratuity, so you had a bill for two people. So you need all communities, to support you if you're going to go into that format. And so we can. It's not enough to say that you're just a black-owned restaurant because that's not going to. I mean, that's not going to really get you to that stratosphere of being the chef and caliber that we want to be. Even though we're producing the same food and things like that, we have to have a diverse audience in order to go to. So it really depends on what we're saying because, like, you look at the fine dining, the tasting menus, all that side of Atlanta, it's going, gangbusters. This side, that we're looking at getting back into the neighborhood, looking at places like Bakehead Seafood reopening and all that stuff. How do we get there?
That's real. That's a real statement. I guess you're right. I think it just takes someone take the risk, take the chance of it all, to kind of,
Yeah.
bring it to the forefront. Just change the game, basically elevate it.
Well, I mean, but you and Gary and Christian Willis, you all are doing it, with Demetrius out there, him there, and all that. So you all are coming from a different perspective, which I think is great for Atlanta. What I think that we have to do is kind of bridge the gap because there's a gap between me and Dee's era of food and you guys' era of food. So we got to kind of bridge that gap in between, just so that we could show there's a unified timeline that got everyone to this point. What influences did we have? Who influenced us? So we can show that tree of life of black chefs in Atlanta, which we sorely need to have that discussion more and more.
I completely agree with that 100% because that is something that, even when we're talking, when people talk to us, we throw out the names, what I'm saying? We go talking with Todd Richards and Dwayne Nutter, what I'm saying? Those were the people who were the catalyst of, chefs of color right now in the city who are doing things, which much due respect, but I completely agree with you on that. That kind of conversation, because even, for us trying to do stuff, we don't really know the game like that. We're still figuring out as we go. So sometimes that causes a little bit of issues and pushback as well for us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but people pushing back to hell with them. I mean, really, this is a high risk, high reward business. And if you're doing something with integrity and all that, then sometimes people criticize to hear themselves talk, and things like that. And so we just had to take some of those criticisms with a grain of salt. But it's just important, in the checks and balances of what we're doing, is to make sure that we're telling a complete story, which a lot of times we don't get the opportunity to do, which is why, you have Chef Todd Richards here, the great Chef Stephan, Roots Heart Soul podcast on Heritage Radio Network. Why we have that here is because we're trying to fill in the gaps of stories that people are missing, and understanding the through lens, there's no Robert Butts without Todd Richards. Well, there's no Todd Richards without Daryl Evans. Without Daryl Evans, there's no this. I mean, where's this whole through line that got us through here? And yes, in a lot of our cuisine, it is a pinch of this and a pinch of that. But anytime you can make chitlins taste good, I mean, come on,
man. That's magical.
So
that's funny. That's what people see.
I agree, and I think that's why Todd and I have found that this podcast is so important, because we get to have the conversations with the OGs and the new and the middle guys who are doing some beautiful and amazing things in different cities of the world, in the United States and around the world. And we get to not only have real conversations, but we get to talk about your story and what you're doing, and we get to discuss, topics that most people tend to avoid.
Yeah, 100%. The
And
uncomfortable conversation.
and I think that's why we both got into this adventure together. And every time we get a chance to talk to someone in the Black and brown food space, it's an amazing conversation, man. It's an amazing conversation. One of the things that I want to see continue, that I hope that it continues, is this great collaboration that I see very often between you and so many other and some of the young Black chefs that are in Atlanta. I think that's really, really important that you guys continue to do that, even though everybody is in their own lane. Everybody is doing, their things in their own space. But you guys come together to do something and celebrate not only the food that you guys cook and love, but you guys celebrate each other. And I think that's really important. And that is something that I don't see everywhere else, to be honest.
Well, I mean, the whole gist of why we even started this, the New South group in general, was because we did an Edna Lewis dinner with Stolen Goods here a few years back, and then someone came up with the idea of we love this Edna Lewis dinner, a chef named Rodney, and he came to me and Demetrius about basically showcasing Southern food, and we're like, you know what, okay, let's talk a little more about it, and it kind of came to a array of, let's highlight all the different profiles of basically the New South in general. We think about the diaspora, everyone coming out from Haitian background or Jamaican or Trinidadian or just American Southern, coming together, kind of highlighting that and showcasing our food through our story. And I started through our food and just kind of tell the tale of it in this new modern light. And so we started basically as just a dinner, but then it started growing a little bit more because I think people saw the community aspect of it, because we did want to build a sense of community, especially in Atlanta. And so now it's kind of grown to this thing where a lot of people want to be a part of it. We're always down to collab with people now, build it, and then we just stick with doing different programs and activations throughout the year. And at the same time, using it as a way to support each other too. Like Chef Todd said, everything's competition. We get that, but at the end of the day, we're gonna still help each other grow at the same time. Because the way I normally don't have Demetrius' audience, or Demetrius doesn't have my audience, or Gary's audience. You know what I'm saying? So it's a way for us too to also put out there too in different arenas and avenues and eyes, and then that way people will come now and try us out for the first time. Because we've had people come now from a few of the dinners who just they've never heard of us, and now they try the food. They're like, you know what? I got to go to this restaurant and try it. So it's a growth with it too as well that we were trying to showcase.
Where's the state of we talked about diversity. You talk about diversity in food and things like that, and even age diversity with diners. But we have World Cup coming next year. And what is the statement that needs to be made now so that it's not such a shock to people when World Cup arrives and we're going to be on the biggest stages globally that you will ever find?
I think the biggest statement is that we kind of have to make a lot more noise than what we're doing. I think when people come here especially when they come to Atlanta, this is something that I've talked to about with Adrian about it, and basically the conversation in Atlanta doesn't really make a lot of noise. And I say that in general, it's when you come here, it's so many things that, like you said before, that don't really showcase the culture of Atlanta. A lot of our restaurants are people who've come here, or even businesses are people who've come here just to get all the tourist attractions. I think when the World Cup does come here, we need to showcase who we really are with the diversity. I mean, not just the diversity, but even when it comes to like our culture. Like Atlanta culture is the big thing, you know, when it comes to our hip hop scene, you know, when it comes to like our music scene in general, and even fashion. Food should be the same exact thing. You know, I think if you have grown, especially if you're from here, you gotta like and have a restaurant, you gotta make those kind of statements. I don't think we need them to come here and just go to the typical, as we call it now, the Michelin restaurants. You know, it's like when you go to New Orleans, you don't just eat on Bourbon Street. You know what I'm saying? You actually like explore a little bit because you want to see what the city is really talking about, what the city vibe really is. And I think when it comes to the World Cup, there needs to be a statement. There needs to be preferably of different, especially I feel, restaurants with chefs of color who they need to see. Because there's a lot of great food out here. And I think the issue is they're just not getting the opportunity to be pushed forward.
So this is a great question that Todd is bringing up, honestly, because 2026 is right around the corner, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
This conversation that we're having right now needs to happen on a bigger, I'm not going to say bigger stage, but big on a larger, with a larger group, and that needs to include, other media outlets, whether it's newspaper, television, social media. We have to make the decision to start creating that buzz that New York has, that Chicago has, that other cities have. Again, we keep calling ourselves the Mecca, the Black Mecca of the United States. But there are things that we are not doing, and especially preparing for the world stage, like the World Cup next year, 2026.
I mean, if you look at just working with some of our great, people that have been on the podcast before, working with, with Eat Okra and doing a World Cup guide, with them, it's just something that's so simple
Here
to
you
do.
go.
To do it like that, and but we also have to have somebody on the political side who's lobbying the mayor's office, the governor's office, in order to, to state these claims and things like that as well. You can't, hide the worst, show the best. I understand that philosophy, but the best thing about Atlanta is being diverse.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you just say go here, and there's nothing wrong with these restaurants, nothing wrong with Michelin, getting a Michelin star, one or two, all of us will jump on that in a second. The thing is that it only shows one side.
Yes.
Yeah, it only shows one side. Is very limited in view. I mean, we need to understand the Georgia barbecue trail, and the influence on that. Understanding why it is, there's, two different sauces in Georgia barbecue. Yeah, so there's a lot we can do, but we have to start, now, actually yesterday if we're going to make a statement. We also need to look at the venue to do it, because we're going to make a statement. We should do it. We should get it out there and sell it now. It'll be sold out in a day. I mean, it makes no sense not to.
I agree. And this is why, the conversation of the Black Culinary Coalition, that Todd and I started having this conversation, and then we extended it to you guys since last year. That's the reason why we were talking about that, because we need to have a not only a strength in numbers, but we also need, like Todd says, it's not just, it has to be political. It has to be, food. It has to be media. It has to be all these different things that we need to start doing on a serious level to put Atlanta where it's supposed to be on where we want it to be on the map.
And I think the thing about it is, and Chef Todd brought up a good point when he brought up Eat Okra, is that we do have those connections. You know what I mean?
We have
Like,
those
if you really
platforms. Those platforms exist.
we have people in all those areas. It's just really utilizing them in that way, in different ways to kind of help push the message. I'm saying, if you talk about media, there's plenty of writers that we have here, especially like Mike Jordan, who tries to really fight for us a lot of times.
Absolutely.
We got connections. Yeah, we got people in the mayor's office who we do stuff for, who are our secretaries. All we got to do is just, hey, doing something. So I think it's realizing the networks we do have and like use them the best way we can, because at the end of the day, they still support us because they already do support us. It's just now
we need to have we need to have the right conversations with them too.
Yes,
we have those relationships, but are we leveraging those relationships with the right conversations?
Absolutely not. Not right now.
See, that's the question.
Not right now.
You may have all these beautiful relationships. We have all these beautiful platforms. We have Black Restaurant Week. We have Eat Okra. We have all these things. But are we leveraging those relationships with the right conversation?
No, but I think it needs to be more of like a planned out effect. Like, we have to really sit and like map it out, the strategy, and then kind of divide it in that way, and kind of like that will help bring it together a little bit. Like, what can we do with the media aspect of it, or what can we do with the food aspect of it? Who do we talk to? Like, who do we go to be the forefront of it? Who can help in this avenue or this way? It's kind of like we just have to strategize it and then go on action with it, plan it out first. So it's not just because when you do something like this, especially being us, we have to come correct. There can't be any flaws in it at all. It can't look lackluster. It has to be on point.
Absolutely. Chef Todd Richards here. Of course, the great Chef Stephan, Roots Heart Soul podcast on Heritage Radio Network. We got a few more minutes left here. Robert, I got to, we were talking about the hip hop analogy of Atlanta and the South. And we've seen, the celebrities, take on restaurants here in the South. And they have not garnered, critical acclaim compared to other cities and other locations.
No, they haven't. Yeah.
Is it a audience thing, or are us as restaurateurs not partnering with these celebrities enough to showcase it in a better light?
Well, I think when it comes down to it, when it comes to celebrity restaurants, it's like you said, it's just a celebrity's name. They don't really have anybody working with them who really sometimes has that culinary or restaurateur background. A lot of them, that's why a lot of them turn to like lounges. We've seen a lot of Atlanta restaurants opened by celebrities close within a couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a couple of months, only because they don't know how to manage the restaurant like that. They try to run it like it's just a club, and that's not realistic. If you don't care about the quality of food that you're getting, the quality of food that you're putting out, the customers, even to the customers you're promoting the restaurant to who are coming in, that plays a long strategy of how your restaurant's going to last and work, then it's not going to work. And I think a lot of times, especially for Atlanta, and I hate the most, is because that's what it kind of comes to when people come here, is that they see the celebrity restaurants, and then that's what they think the Atlanta restaurant scene is. So they go there, and then they say, oh, this is disgusting. And now the whole city can't cook. All the restaurants are nasty. And I think it comes to a point where maybe we should work with them more. Be like, hey, I know you have this concept for like the seafood thing, but let's talk it out a little bit first. Do some more consulting with them. I mean, if they're not going to reach out, maybe we should reach out. But, just to see so many close, it's really sad because, they have the backing of the name to make a great restaurant. It's just if they don't have the right team, the right strategy, it's going to fail every single time.
They don't have the right recipe.
Yeah.
But it like you just said, it may take for you guys to reach out to them when you hear that there's a celebrity restaurant that's being opened, because like you just said, when it fails, it brings the whole reputation of the Atlanta food scene down.
But see, there's a side to that too. Like, sometimes they don't want the help. They think they already know it all already, or they have someone who thinks they know it all already. And that's the kind of thing you battle as well. Where a lot of times they don't want to listen to your ideas because they don't see what you're saying yet, even though you've seen it happen multiple times. Sometimes their mind is like, oh, I'm different. It's not going to affect me like that.
Well, I mean, they're different because they have money, but I mean, you and I, and all three of us know, Hood System, AC, Grease Trap, plumbing, you're at 300,000, for a new restaurant, and if you just want to throw away 300,000, there's a lot less stressful ways to do it than opening a restaurant.
Absolutely.
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 Right? There's a lot of
Absolutely. I can find 100 things to do with $300,000 right now.
right, so it's really that, I would say, not because I did it, well, because I did it, Chicken and Beer was successful because actually, we're actually chefs and we ran it like a true restaurant, we listen to the input, of the celebrity, and, we got it right, so it does take us to do so.
That's a good network. That's a good network.
Stephan, get started.
There's a saying in Haiti. It says there's no secret in making soda. There's a fucking formula.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, there is a formula to making soda. There's also a formula to making a great restaurant and making great food. It doesn't happen with a magic wand.
Yeah.
So Robert, we're getting close to the end of the hour. Really was a pleasure having you on the podcast. Tell our audience, please, and share with them where they can find you, where they can connect with you, and what's next on your agenda other than this amazing restaurant that I'm supposed to come and eat at.
Well, I mean, like Chef said, my name is Chef Robert Butts. The restaurant that I co-own and chef at is called Auburn Angel in the historic downtown Atlanta area. You can follow me on all social media apps at Chef Robert Butts. I'm on Facebook as Chef Robert. I have a lot of stuff coming up that I'm very excited for. There's a few like festivals that I got coming up that I'm flying out to. We have some new concepts coming up too. I'm actually working with a chef in New York. His name is Jay. He owns Lore and Folk in Brooklyn. I did a dinner with him last year, and we're working on a project for Atlanta to come next year. Little speakeasy spot, but it's going to be really dope with the food, Indian meets American Southern kind of concept there. We do have a bunch of dinners coming up as well with the New South group that we have coming up. We have Friendsgiving this weekend. Then, of course, I'm partnering with them, Gary, for vinyl sessions that following week. And other than that, just check us out at Auburn Angel. It's always amazing food, and it's always a good time.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting close to the hour. We want to thank you for joining us. Thank you, God, that Chef Todd made it home safely.
That traffic. He's not joking with you though. This traffic is crazy.
Listen, he's an important part of my life. So I got to make sure he's always good. Thank you for joining us. Please tune in on the 25th. This is going to be a special podcast edition as we celebrate our 50th episode.
Congratulations.
Join us Tuesday, 7 p.m. It may last an hour, it may last 2, because we're going to be drinking a lot of rum and a lot of champagne.
Absolutely.
Okay, so join us 7 p.m.
Not necessarily in that order either.
Not necessarily in that order either. Okay, we're going to be drinking a lot of rum and a lot of champagne, and we're going to have a ton of our past guests from the last 49 episodes. Robert, please join us also on the 7th, on the 25th, 7 p.m. Come chat with us. It's going to be a party as we celebrate 50 and shooting 400. Join us again on Roots Heart and Soul Podcast on Heritage Radio Network. Tuesday.